Yo, what's up everyone? Akaran here coming to you with a new video. So a ton of people on Twitch and YouTube have asked me, how do you actually lab in Street Fighter 6 and or what the best settings are for training mode? So in today's video, I would like to answer that and go ahead and show you guys what I use personally to lab out, let's say like certain solutions in the game or anything in particular just to figure it out. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So now that we're in training mode, I'll be going over all the training settings I have on and also which things in training mode I actually use and why. So in basic settings, there are two actually very important things that you need to know about, which is a save status, which means you can set save states, and also a command list, which is the command list for your character. So if you're somebody who's just trying to pick up a new character, this is basically everything showing you what you're supposed to do. If you're somebody who plays a modern control, it's literally right there as well. Also, another good thing about the training mode right here is you can choose which character you want. So let's say you're playing against a different character and you just want to see which move they have. So for example, let's take Ryu, right? It's a basic example. And let's say like this kick, you don't know what exactly it does, and you can see that, yeah, this kick is basically used as a surprise attack and it's meant for maximum effectiveness. Okay, perfect, right? So you know what the usage is for these moves and what their purpose is. But besides that, the other one that's really good in basic settings is just literally just save states, because you can put yourself in a situation back over and over again as much as you want to, honestly. So you can basically, let's say like you're doing like a block string here, you can reset it to the exact position which you were at. This is really good for one particular thing, which is like, for example, punishing DPs. So if you just want to save time on Ken, for example, here using DP, you can just reset it every single time to him being at the absolute highest height, and you can pause it exactly at that frame. So let me do that as an example real quick. So after wake up, we're going to have him do Ori Shoryu. And now what we're going to do is we're going to save status, and then we can punish him here, then we can reset it over and over. So very, very convenient feature overall. I haven't really used this one too much, but I've seen a bunch of the Japanese players who have been labbing a lot use this situation just to like get what they want over and over again. So very, very good overall to use. Let's go over environment settings. So for environment settings, I personally haven't changed anything here. I never do. But one of the things that's really good is you can change the character that you want to be played like pretty much in an instant. And it's the same for the control scheme. So you can actually change like either or. You can set Ken, for example, to be modern controls, Cammy to be on classic controls, whatever you prefer, whatever you want. Me personally, I don't really fuck around with this too much. Okay, let's go over the most important one, which is dummy settings. This is where you actually get the meat and potatoes. Right here, what you can do is you can set your opponent to basically do anything you want. You can set him to crouch, you can set him to jump, you can set him to just stand, you can have it be a counter setting, you can have it be a punish counter, you can set it to random as well, so you can practice reaction time for it. Block, also another really good one, because in this game in particular that I love is something called block count, which means after a certain amount of hits on block, they will either be able to get hit or like anything else will happen. This is like really, really good as well, especially if you want to practice like any specific strings. I feel like Jury is the one that benefits from this one the most with her level 2. Another thing that's really good is switch block. So you can have your opponent set to standing block only or crouching block only. So if you, for example, want to practice a setup and then practice immediately afterwards, so something like this, they would still block afterwards if they weren't set to do an Ori Shoryu. So right here, see? Because this isn't a low move, he would still be blocking it and you would still get the situation that you wanted, but you still would need the knockdown, obviously, so that's why you would do that, for example. Another good example is obviously trying to go for an overhead scenario and see how that works. So for Cammy that is using this, like her hooligan, and you will get that. There's also a bunch of other characters who just have general overheads that you can do this for and practice for, but yeah. Block type is another good one, which is they'll be blocking to either a drive parry or a perfect parry, so you can actually test out how you would be able to fare against perfect parry and what things you can do as a counterplay, maybe stuff like that. Drive reversal can also be activated if it wants to, so you can practice against drive reversal in particular, so we can have it be active right away. So you can practice the punish right there. So yeah, no, this one is basically like your meat and potatoes. Like dummy settings are basically the best ones that you always want to set. One of my biggest tips when it comes to dummy settings, and this is really important in the game as a whole, is for recovery, always set them to recover backwards. Because when you're here and you like knock an opponent down, 99% of the time in an actual match, they will go ahead and back tech. They will never really like back in front. It isn't like recover in place. It isn't really a usual thing. So if you're practicing setups like this with Cammy and you're trying to hit somebody, obviously this is a whole different scenario as if they were recovering backwards, because you couldn't throw them or anything. and they're like further away, so you hit them like on this distance than being literally right next to them. So those are dummy settings. I would personally just, again, always have recover backwards on, and whatever you need for this is usually a best friend. I usually always have it to block all and crouching. Let's go over recording settings. So recording in this game is actually really nice because you can loop it. That is one of the best things actually in this game. So if we were to go ahead and do like anything random with Ken, so we would go ahead and do a Hadouken, right? And we would just go back and then just do nothing for like a little bit. If you go and activate that and press repeat replay, what would happen is run it. As you can see up top, frame, it just repeats it over and over again. So you can practice how to, for example, look at the Hadouken and then react and punish. Right? That is like one of the great things that you can practice here. Or anything else where it's like you're looking for like a solution to go over Hadouken or like anything like that, or like trying to perfect parry it, right? So having it be like recovered or like come back over and over and over again, really good. I usually have repeat replay on just for the simple reason that if I'm labbing something, I would like the move to just happen over and over again so I can find a solution, especially with different timings, since if I'm blocking it, for example, it will have a different timing as if it's just randomly being spammed. So yeah, you can also record as many replays as you want. I always only use slot 1. I've never really needed more than that for now. Obviously for drills and stuff, so if you want to drill anything in specific, like whether they're going to drive impact or they're going to jump at me after like a crouching medium kick or like after a Hadouken, right? Like that's like very specific, but you do have those options to go for. Reversal settings, these are also really good if you want to practice anything in particular. For me, the biggest one has been practicing melee setups as of late, so I will show you an example of what I've been practicing, which is after they would wake up, they would try to press a certain button. So I'll be practicing like, okay, what punish do I get if they mash on wake up? So I would go ahead and put them in the corner. So in this scenario, for example, what I would do is I would be able to lab out what my best options are, right? So if I would be throwing my opponent right here, I could be practicing how to deal with jab. So in this case, what I would do is I would use a meaty right here, and then I have a full setup here essentially in order to beat it, right? This can be like whatever you want, but essentially like that's the thing that I've been practicing as of recent, just to get the timing down, know what I can do and what I cannot do. Obviously for throw loops, you can just throw them over and over. That's another thing you can practice, where it's like, okay, I want to practice it so it says counter it the entire time, because if I am too late and I throw them too late, as you can see, I will just get punished. But if I do it just enough, there's no way for the opponent to escape from a jab alone. You would have to either tech throw, backdash, or jump out. That's like the basic one. And there also are several, the more you like click on the left or the right. So there's block reversal, so if you hit somebody on block, they would try to medium kick you afterwards, like whatever you want. You can set basically anything. So you can set any button that the character has, any unique attack that the character has, any special move, you can choose all the versions of it. And supers, you can also record separate things and then try them out. For example, a delay jab, if you want to practice against delay jab, also really good. And my favorite is practicing against jumps. So you can actually set somebody to vertical jump or forward jump in order to practice anti-airs. This is something I have also been practicing a lot recently. So whenever I would hit somebody on block, they would try to jump out and I would need to guess where they're going, or like I would need to react to it essentially, and then I would DP them for it. Obviously, if he's going the other side, I would need to do the other DP, right? I would do like the light version, or I would do back heavy kick, as you can see right here. Let's wait for it. Let's wait for him to go the other side real quick. Boom, boom. See? So it would be very easy for me to just practice it over and over. Yeah, no, so essentially like whatever you want here, this is like your best options. I always try to like practice at least something while I'm like waiting for ranked. Mostly what I've been practicing on right now is anti-airs, because it's by far my weakest area in this game. Parameter settings. Okay, this one is actually really important, and I would like you guys to always set this as the options. So for vitality recovery, you can have it be on refill, it's completely fine. Now for drive gauge on the other hand, I would always have it be standard. Now why is this really important? I have seen countless of combos on Twitter, not only for Cammy, but for pretty much every character, where the drive gauge in training mode resets and they get too many actions that they wouldn't be able to do because of either the meter management or anything like that. So always have this on standard, especially for combo practice, so you know what you're getting. If you're just practicing a specific combo that has like 3 drive bars or whatever, you can more than welcome just have it be on refill or fixed. That's completely fine. In general, I will always have it on standard for like combo experiments and stuff like that, so always keep it there. Everything else here is pretty much like up to you what you want to do. I think SA gauge recovery is also another thing that will be really good later down the line, so you can figure out like, okay, so my combo right here, right, if it's on 0 bars, how much do I actually get from this conversion, right? Like for example, if I throw someone, how much do I get? If I drive impact somebody, how much do I get? right? So you can actually like check it. So that's basically that. But I personally always have this one filled, and this one I always have a standard just so I can actually practice properly. Okay, let's go over screen display settings, which are the ones that I also highly suggest everyone to do. So these are settings that everybody should have when practicing, which is have attack data on, input history display for player 1, frame meter on, everything, basically everything on besides virtual controller are the ones that I suggest personally. Having frame meter on is really good because you can see the exact frame data of your moves. This is really important in the game, especially when you're learning the game. You can see how negative am I on block and also what startup do I have. So for example, the crouching heavy punch of Cammy is 10 frames of startup and it has an advantage of 1. What does that mean, right? So in this scenario, for example, if we have him set to crouching light punch, what would happen is I would do a crouching heavy punch, which is +1, and then he would try to mash out. As I said, again, I'm 1 frame advantage, so if we were to do the same action at the same time, I'll be winning it. Which means I can get a full combo here. Boom, 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 boom. See? So in this scenario, let's take a move that is negative. If I were to press this button and then I would try to do a punch, I would lose because I'm -2 right here, right? And you can basically test this for everything. You can see exactly what trainer you have. I'm -1 actually, my bad. You can see exactly what trainer that you have for everything. Really, really important stuff that you guys need to know. Really, really important stuff because the entire game of Street Fighter, especially in pressure, revolves around frame data and knowing when you're plus and when you're minus and when to take your turn and when not to. That's something to definitely keep in mind, and I would highly suggest everybody have that on in particular. Anything else that I would like to add? Action timing display is also pretty good, and cancel timing display. So you can actually see the thing up top on Cammy. So you can see when something can't actually still be canceled in time together. Like obviously, like I'm going to use a move that's like a bit longer. You see like the red bar means when things can start getting canceled either by themselves or by the game. So for example, right here, standing heavy punch is something that can be canceled in the specials right away. So you don't need that. But for example, right here, if you were to use standing medium, which can't be canceled in anything, I'm trying to do it as fast as I can. You see how I'm like inputting like anything here and nothing happens. So I need to wait for that to be over, and then the green light is when I can do something. Right, so that's like the big difference. Virtual controller I don't really use personally, but it's definitely something that you can see for yourself if it's something that's worth using, so you have like an easier time seeing like which button you press for which. I personally don't use this. I also don't really care using this. This is just optional. You don't really need this at all. The last part are the simple training settings. So this is actually semi-useful. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. I've pretty much tried like all of them, and here are the ones that I can suggest personally. So the ones that I can suggest personally are anti-air practice. This is pretty good because it actually teaches you like, okay, are they going to neutral jump, are they going to forward jump, and then you can anti-air. This one's pretty good overall. Offensive pressure practice, didn't really find it useful. Throw escape practice, didn't really find it useful. Standard CPU battle, you can just play a one-on-one with a CPU. It's pretty much worthless. I don't really see benefit in that. Whiff punish practice is something that's pretty good, so you can learn how to actually whiff a move. Punish practice is pretty good, and drive impact defense is also something that's pretty solid, so you can learn how to react to drive impact. You're better off reacting to it in a real match, but it is not too bad. The biggest one though, the biggest one is the frame meter and U. This one I would suggest everyone to look at because it gives you all the info of whatever you would need. You could see, for example, when startup is happening, when you have a projectile active time, when you have invincible period, when you have a strike invincible period, when you have a projectile invincible period. And you can see how many frames that is and how helpful it is. It also shows you the frame is the smallest unit of time and used by the game, with a single frame being 1/60th of a second, yada yada, right? So it gives you like everything essentially. It shows you what frame data is supposed to be. One of the biggest examples I will give you right now. Cammy's spin knuckle is projectile invincible. Only the medium and heavy versions are, the light version isn't. The only way for you to know that is to actually look into training mode right here with the frame meter, because usually when somebody's telling you like new things, when you're learning something from like a friend or something, they'd be like, oh, that move is projectile invincible, but they don't tell you the fine print, which is like it's only projectile invincible if you press medium and heavy. So you would have been using this the entire time and still gotten hit by Ken's fireballs, right? Because like right here is going to be spamming them, right? And then you would try to use this and you would lose the entire time. And it's like, why am I losing? Like, why the fuck am I losing? You told me this is the case. Well, if you look at the fine print and we see that medium right here has 15 frames of projectile invincibility, that means right here, if you use the medium version, you're +7 afterwards, so you can land your crouching medium punch as a combo and then do this. Really, really useful stuff. Heavy is actually the longest reaching one, has the longest frames of projectile invincibility, so this is the one you usually want to opt into. But how would you know if you don't check the frame data? Exactly, you wouldn't. So very important to get familiar with the frame meter. This meter here that you see, most important thing for you to always have on in the game and always check it. It takes up a little bit of space, so it won't even bother you at all, and that's the one I personally suggest. But yeah, that's basically it with my training settings. These are everything that I use. If you found this helpful, please let me know in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.